Hello and welcome. This is Press in Prejudice, light chats and deep dives into news ideologies. This episode, episode 0, if you must, is an introductory episode about the whats and the whys of the show. I'm your host, Sir Nick, and together, as the name of the show suggests, we will dive deep into the intricacies of Philippine news and the ideologies that they carry. A little bit of introduction about myself first. Where are my manners, right? At the time of this recording, I am a candidate for a PhD in applied linguistics in a private university in the Philippines. I am also a full time professor teaching linguistics, language arts, literature, and teacher education in another private university. So you could say that I have some sort of credentials for having produced this show about language and society, right? You might be wondering why the apparent sense of anonymity from you, Mr. Podcast host. And to that I say, I just want to keep it that way, for the mystery of it all. But mystery aside, this podcast may feature some strong yet research backed opinions about certain things, specifically issues and narratives found in Philippine news articles. I would like to keep my sanity and peace of mind, despite this overwhelming feeling of wanting to share with you some insights about how media narratives can potentially manipulate public opinion. More on that later as we talk about the show itself. Okay, you might say, but why use English as your medium? Why not speak Tagalog? You're from the Philippines, right? You might say something like that. First of all, I think it's more fitting to call it Filipino rather than Tagalog, right? Yeah, I'm just kidding. Most importantly, this podcast may reach listeners who don't speak, let alone understand our language. So, as much as I love our national language, allow me to just use English as my primary medium for hosting this show. Well, what is this show about? And why should you care about this? You might ask something like that, right? While you're probably washing your dishes right now, or just trying to fall asleep, or whatever it is that you do while listening to podcasts. Well, simply put, this show is all about analysis, critical investigation, and to a certain degree, criticism of Philippine news. Whether it's broadcast, print, or online news, we will be looking into them and we will be seeing how the pragmatics of news discourse shapes the ideologies of the consumers of those texts. Geez, I'm starting to sound too academic, am I? Pragmatics, discourse, ideology, consumers of text. What the hell is this guy talking about? Well, that's one side of this show that I will try to assure you that I will be as subjective and as academic as possible. All the things that we will be talking about here will be based on hours and hours, even days or weeks of research. But on the other side, the lighter side, if you must, we will also try to keep the tone of this show as friendly as possible. Well, kind of like lighthearted. So, whenever there are technical terms in the episode, rest assured that I won't leave you hanging, wondering what those words mean. in the context of analyzing news texts. So it's basically a show about analyzing news texts in the Philippines using various theories, tools, and frameworks. But why should you care about the show? Why should you spend 15 to 20 minutes of your precious time listening to a guy breaking down linguistic elements of news? This seems to be a narrow niche, isn't it? Well, you don't have to be a PhD candidate or a seasoned journalist to care about this podcast. You see, news is one of those text types or genres that seem to be very ubiquitous. In fact, we are surrounded by sources of news text, from that newspaper on someone's office table to the ever present news pages that pop out of your Facebook feed. News is everywhere. And since it's everywhere, we consume these texts whether we are consciously doing it or not. You see, the point of this podcast is to inform, to a certain extent, educate the audience of how individual and social ideologies can be shaped by the text that we consume. It just so happened that in this case, we look into news. But why news, right? Why not advertisements? Those are ubiquitous too, right? And my answer to that is that news narrates our reality. It's basically a documentation of the important events in the society where we live in. And it's important for us to know how these documentations, these narrations of reality, are being presented to us. It is important for us to know how these stories construct our perceptions of the world. On a personal note, this podcast is simply a product of my PhD dissertation. It's a graduation requirement. I had to do this. But you know what? I want you to know that I'm also doing this because just like you, my dear listeners, I care about our society. You and I, we care about the stories, the events, the characters, the issues in this grand narrative playing out in our country. And by extension, we should also care about these stories, events, characters, and issues, and how are they being fed to us by the media. You know that thing that they say, it's not so much about what is being said, but how it is being said. So, what to expect in this here podcast? Well, in the first few episodes, we will have to establish the main point of this podcast. We will be talking about news and the criticisms and analysis of it throughout history. We will also be talking about the specific theories, frameworks, and tools that we will be using in analyzing the news that we will be talking about. Later on, there will be episodes dedicated to fake news, social media news, controversial cases, and many, many more. This podcast aims to be one reliable educational source for people who are into critical analysis of news text or any type of text for that matter. And I personally hope that it'll be what it aims to be. This podcast will be published through various platforms. You can catch this podcast through its YouTube channel, Press and Prejudice, and soon on Spotify. Just search for the title. You can also follow this show's socials. Like, you can like this show on Facebook at Present Prejudice. You can also follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Press and Prej. That's PRESSANDPREJ for, you know, the latest about the show. There will also be an official email address for our old school folks out there. You may send your concerns, comments, suggestions, and literally anything that you want to tell me through our official Gmail, pressandprej.podcast@gmail.com. This show is written, produced, recorded, researched, and edited by yours truly. I hope to see you again in the upcoming episodes, and I look forward to interacting with all of you. This has been Present Prejudice. I'll see you in the next big scoop.